Welcome, Wargamers, back to Tzeentch Week here on 2 Plus Tough, and today we're talking all about the Gaunt Summoners of Tzeentch. Now, we did give these guys kind of a little bit of a shout out when we covered Archaon, because they kind of fit into his plan, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But the Disciples of Tzeentch Battle Tome gave us a much greater understanding of them, and so I really do think they deserve their own time in the light. So jumping right in, what is a Gaunt Summoner? Well, to put very simply, they are a massively powerful sorcerer of Tzeentch. At any given time, there is only 9 in existence. It's more of a positional thing rather than, like, say, a unit type. And these are really sorcerers or demons who have really earned Tzeentch's favor. And upon ascension to this position, they are given a few things. A change staff, a flying disc, way more magical power, and a key to a silver tower. Now, what is a silver tower? Well, if you've ever played the game Silver Tower, you'd know that a silver tower is a vast reservoir of arcane knowledge and power. And Gaunt Summoners kind of function as the wardens of these places, with each silver tower being like a mighty labyrinth, like you would build and play out during the Silver Tower game. These places bend time, space, color, and really try to break the sanity of the people inside of them. And to put it simply, it is the highest security library that you will ever hear of. Now, as I said earlier, every Gaunt Summoner used to be a mortal who was elevated by Tzeentch to this position, right? Master sorcerers who were so good at Tzeentch's plans that he just elevated the snot out of them. Well, that means that they were all mortals at one point, and each Gaunt Summoner had a different name when they were human. So this is how we're going to include Archaon here. So he wanted these Gaunt Summoners on his side. At one point, they were in the same location, so he started throwing waves upon waves of soldiers at them. And the Gaunt Summoners, of course, would burn them straight and repel them with magical walls and do all the stuff that these incredible sorcerers are meant to do. And Archaon sat on a hill and he watched them. And as they used magic, he saw names kind of flicker in the flames very, very subtly. But he kept throwing more and more dudes at them to try and stop them. This was all a huge game, right? Archaon doesn't want to kill them. He's just seeing their kind of like their names appear in their use of magic. So he keeps throwing more and more guys at them to keep getting the names of all 9 of them. He wants them for his side. He wants to have control and domination over them. Now, likewise, Tzeentch is also at this scenario, away from Archaon, watching this whole thing unfold. He's watching Archaon try to learn the names of his Gaunt Summoners. And there's kind of this big metagame, right? Does Archaon know that Tzeentch is watching? Because ultimately Tzeentch said, I'm going to let him take control of the Gaunt Summoners if he can do it. Likewise, Archaon is sitting there thinking, I know Tzeentch is watching at some level, so he's probably just going to let me have these things. Like, this is who's actually mentally dominating the situation, nobody knows. But at the end of the day, Archaon learns the 9 names of these Gaunt Summoners and binds them to his will. And Tzeentch is okay with this, because now he has guys on the inside. Remember, all their power does come from Tzeentch, so he can take away. So it's a mutual understanding that Archaon earned their services, not without loss of life, and that Tzeentch is going to let him basically on loan use these dudes. And it's easy to look at this situation and say, well, why would Tzeentch let Archaon bind and control his 9 best sorcerers? Well, here's kind of the thing with Archaon and how he fits into the scheme. All of the Chaos Gods either want Archaon dead, or they want him on their side. Okay, he is the true ever-chosen of all 4 of them, and they hate each other enough so that everybody wants Archaon on their side, or him dead completely. Every time they send an offering to Archaon, he rejects it. Like a Chaos Mutation, or a Boon, or Demonhood, he rejects it. But this is a gift that Tzeentch can give to him that he will accept, because he also earned it. So in their kind of convoluted way, this is Tzeentch's kind of offering. I now have guys on the inside of Archaon's forces, as well as the fact that he now has access to do more stuff with the power of Tzeentch, which is good ultimately for Tzeentch himself. So he let Archaon take over his Gaunt Summoners. This kind of story gets very confusing because you have to remember that Archaon is super cunning and plays the long game, just like Tzeentch does, probably in a different way. But when you have 2 kind of master manipulators going at it, it seems very convoluted. But at the end of the day, what you have is Gaunt Summoners who have to do what Archaon says, but they are still Tzeentch through and through. They still have autonomy, a large amount of autonomy. So much so that if Tzeentch kind of compiles an army of cultists and things like that, they will lead, a Gaunt Summoner will lead a Disciples of Tzeentch army. It's not just about Slaves to Darkness with Archaon. Really all the binding thing that Archaon did was allowed him to use their services, and we'll get to what they do for him in a minute, but also means they can't work against him. There's 9 powerful sorcerers who are now not trying to kill Archaon, which is its own reward. And the reason he wants them is very practical, and I covered it in the Archaon video, and that is instant communication. See, this is still a fantasy realm, and then they don't have walkie-talkies or ham radios, nothing like that. But using magic to tear messages across different realms is extremely powerful, right? If you can coordinate across realms instantly through communication, your war effort is way stronger than anyone else's. And so that's what they do for Archaon. They act as super magic radios, and that's incredibly cool. And this communication network is what allows Archaon, one, to know where it is important for him to be. That's why in these stories, like, oh, Archaon appears and just kills everybody, right? It's not like Deus Ex Machina. No, it's because there is a network of people who tell him, you need to be here. We're going to lose this realm gate. And that's how he knows how to do it. And that is how you win war. If we look at our real world history, the invention of the radio revolutionized warfare, because now our efforts can be coordinated on a next level. Now, it's important to remember that while they do assist him, and they have to do that, they can't plot against him in terms of like actually damaging him or anything like that, they also don't want to be under his service. And in their spare time, they are perpetually looking for a way to undo Archaon's bind on them. And it's a patient kind of work. They're not regarded as like fanatically trying to get underneath his thumb like, say, a Skaven army would be. But they have this calm understanding in the very core of them that change is inevitable. And someday, Archaon will not be in charge of them, which I think is quite possibly the most Tzeentchian thing about them. That kind of through and through understanding, no matter who they work for, they might be here stuck with Archaon for a time, but they know their Lord Tzeentch, and they know that this will not last forever. So why are Gaunt Summoners cool? Or those are kind of the facts. It's really just a one-page spread, maybe a couple paragraphs about them. But why are they cool? Well, here's the thing. They are some of the most powerful wizards in the game, from a narrative perspective, and frankly not too far off from the tabletop perspective. They're one of those units that actually I can't think of any others right now off the top of my head, but they have more models to represent them than any other, right? They have the Gaunt Summoner on foot, then you have the Gaunt Summoner with familiars, and you have the dude on the disc. You got a lot of options to play a Gaunt Summoner, and they're all very, very cool. And what I like about them is they represent the end of the road. Here's what I mean. We play in a system called Path to Glory, which used to just be chaos exclusively. And it was about a chaos war leader who was striving to gain the favor of a chaos god, right? It used to just be Nurgle, Khorne, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch. Those 4 factions going head to head. What you're seeing with a Gaunt Summoner is the champion who walked the Path to Glory and made it. These guys are full demon, full man. They were given a new name, amazing power, gifts of a demon god. You know what I mean? Like, these are the guys who made it. They made it, and it's so cool. We never see stories of people who walk the Path to Glory and, like, make it. That's always, he was either struck down by a good guy or, he just exploded into a spawn. And these guys give us an insight into the end game, and that is something that is so flippin' cool. Before this, it was usually just kind of relegated to named character models, like Valkia the Bloody for Khorne. Like, she made it. Sure. But never really just a unit, right? A faceless guy that you can make your own story for and those kinds of things. And as such, they are mortals who have demon-level powers. So much so that they actually have the keyword on their war scroll. And I love the fact that they have this constant duality of purpose. By this I mean they are of Tzeentch. They are demons of Tzeentch and mortal servants of Tzeentch at the same time. However, they are also bound by Archaon. And while most of the time those, their goals are kind of on the same level, like, Tzeentch and Archaon aren't radically different in terms of I want to kill all the Order guys ever. But they do conflict. There's that tension there of like, I'm serving someone who's not my lord. This Archaon's not the guy who I was chasing for during my path to glory. Likewise, if you're talking about like an inner turmoil, imagine spending your whole life working for something, you achieve it, and then it's just diminished. It's taken away from you, right? They want to be Gaunt Summoners of Tzeentch, exclusively for Tzeentch, rocking the Silver Tower, being the best they can be for him. It was their entire life's purpose, but now you've been relegated to being an assistant wizard for somebody else's war effort. And because of that, they fill a lot of cool narrative roles. Because while they are also the general, they can lead martial forces all the time, they're also a slave, right? They are a weapon of war and brutality and mindless violence, but they're also the gatekeepers of almost infinite knowledge. And being able to do so many things, to fill so many narrative roles, is something that is truly excellent for story building. So folks, that is all there is to say about Gaunt Summoners of Tzeentch. Great models, great rules, awesome backstory, and I really, really do love them. I look forward to seeing you next time on my next Age of Sigmar lore video. We're going to keep kicking it hard with Tzeentch Week, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.